All right, folks. Well, welcome to episode number 9. Today we have a special guest, Stephanie and David from Squimpishflies. But before we get into that, we're going to go on with our sponsors. So let's hear it.
At the Vice is sponsored by HMH Flying Time. HMH has been making flying time vices, tying tools and tubes flying materials since 1975. Located in Benford, Maine, their products are not only made in the U.S., but all the vice parts are in the state of Maine. All HMH products are hand assembled by a small team of not only flight tires but registered main flight guides. These guys know what works. All their products can be seen at timevice.com or ask your favorite Time Vice shop to get a HMH.
Excellent. Also brought to you by Midwest Bucktail. For all your online resource bucktail needs, please visit midwestbucktail.com. With this podcast, you will receive a code. You can use this code ATV10 for 10% off, good until 11:59 p.m. on Sunday.
Guys, this episode has been recorded via riverside.fm. If you guys are looking to start a podcast or a video podcast, go ahead and head out to the link that's in the description. It's super easy. It does all the editing for you. It uploads everything, records everything, stores everything in the cloud, so you guys won't ever lose any of your episodes. Head over to riverside.fm. So, since we have you guys on, I'm going to ask you guys to introduce yourselves a little bit.
Want to go first?
Hi,
Hi,
David Nelson.
Stephanie Nelson.
We are Squimpishflies.
We are.
I've been tying flies for a long time and really enjoy fishing, obviously, with flies as well. And I know our hosts here. Thank you for having us. I appreciate it. Dave is a member of our pro staff, and we're happy to be here.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. We're just a fly fishing fanatic and a marketing girl, and here we go. Squimpish flies.
That's it. Squimpishflies.
Yes.
All right,
That's
let
it.
me break the ice here. David, how many
Ta-da!
fucking hats do you have?
A lot.
A lot.
A lot. I don't have a lot of insulation up top, so it's like I get cold easy. Makes me happy. Keep a hat on.
You know what's funny? That all 4 of us in here, the guys, we're all bald.
Yep.
Me too.
I'm not
This is
bald. I
all-
got
this
some
isn't
hair.
Real. This is not real.
Yeah,
It's all
you
fake.
got about as much as everybody. More on our face, right?
Yeah, that's it.
I shaved yesterday.
I almost want to get one of those new things because I'm thinking about that skinhead look.
What
Great.
new thing?
You know, like those they're like the old Norelco razors that have like the 4 like soft
Oh,
grills
like
and
the
they go
little
around. Yep,
Oh
exactly. I saw one of
yeah.
those.
I have one of those. They're pretty cool.
So you probably use like a Bic.
I use just a
He's old
straight
school.
razor. That's it. It's the easiest for my head. But
All right, all seriousness, fly fishing, fly tying. I mean, David, I've known of you since Striper Online days. You know, we'll kick it off if we can. We'll dial it back to then. Those times in what 2008, 2009 ish. I mean, that forum was hot. I mean, everybody was on it, right? Johnny
Everybody.
King, Bob Popovich, Dan Blanton, like everybody. I mean, it was the go-to social media site for all things Northeast fly fishing. Like even across the country, it didn't matter.
Yeah, you had people like logging in from like every other website too, like as a guest here and there, joining
Yeah.
just to be able to participate in some conversations. Very
Yeah,
cool.
Right. And my favorite boat partner, C. Taylor, obviously got a lot of inspiration from you with his crazy flies, you know, with his crazy crab and shrimp patterns, and that was awesome. That was an awesome era that time.
It really was. That was the 2008 was the year that I did my first show. I did a symposium, and then I did the show at it was at Somerset versus Edison. and I did it for Francine at Down and Trout was my host. She asked me to be the tyer at her booth, and a crazy article came out in Saltwater Fly Fisherman, and I had my name on the cover saying something like, "Is David Nelson the sport's best new tire?" And
Nice.
people were like, "David Nelson? Who the hell is that?" Right? Like, and at the show, I was like, I remember like sitting down to tie, and who comes behind me but Bob Popovic. He like puts his hand on my, and I had partaken in quite a bit the night before, and like I couldn't keep my hand steady, and then Bob's on me, on my shoulder, like, "What are you doing? Why are you doing that?" Blah blah blah. It was like, overload. 2008, I think it
That was
30,
before I knew you,
yeah,
so.
30, before I knew
That
you.
was before I knew you.
That's
Yeah.
that's basically. I mean, I started way before. I remember the first a couple of fly shows down in Maryland with Lefty and all that. I think that was like the first rendition of like shows. Um, but yeah, I remember I used to go to those shows back then as well. It was a great era of fly fishing, in that, hopefully, it seems like it's coming back. With COVID, it seems like a lot of new faces, a lot of young people are coming back. I was at a Bruin tie last night, and there was 3 kids that were 20 years old tying flies. They're not inside playing video games. It was cool to see.
That's awesome.
Very cool.
Yeah.
I think also with online sharing, whether it be on social media or on boards, it's incredible to see, because then you get people that come up to you when you come and do a show, and I've seen incredible talent, and I love when people come up to me and like, whether it be someone like you or just somebody I don't even know, and they show me their flies, and it's like, it's mind blowing to see people like, I've never even seen you on social media. I've never seen anybody, this person or two, and they're incredible tires. They're just tying for themselves and their buddies or their groups. I think it's a ripe sort of tradition that's all across the board, whether it be with saltwater or freshwater, and there's a lot of people interested in it. It just seems to be a very, very growing market. I know we as a business have just seen incredible growth from the time we started. So we're celebrating our 5-year anniversary. It was 5 years ago that we started our little business, and
Yes.
had the
Well, you stumbled
genesis.
upon
We
the
stumbled
best
upon
fly
hair.
time material existing on the planet.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Look,
Yes.
David, I still didn't use these brushes you made me.
Awesome. Oh, they're beautiful.
They're pretty, man. I love making
Yeah.
them.
Every
I got
every
I got to
brush
use
is
them. I got to
made
make some flies.
by this guy. I'm your blend girl. This is the brush guy.
So listen, Joe, you're not gonna use that pink and purple, so you might as well just cough it up to me. I'll use it for steelhead.
What are you talking about? Pink and purple is great for stripers.
So
Latest
how did the whole material thing come along? Like, how did you guys start the whole material thing? And
Funny you ask. We were talking before the show about like
We
what's gonna
tried
come
like
up.
reminiscing
Yeah,
about
we're reminiscing.
how did this
about,
really
like,
start.
So you can actually go. It's pretty easy if you actually to go on my Instagram page and go back 5 years ago. I had just recently joined Instagram, and put a post up because the short of it is I was fully immersed in fly tying, completely obsessed with that, all natural materials, the best taper, the best nice looking flow of flies, the movement, and I was looking for a longer craft fur, because craft fur kind of chills out at 3.5 inches.
Yep.
I was looking for something more, and the plasticky bozo hair, kinky fiber, etc. It wasn't doing it for me. And then I stumbled upon this manufacturer, and they were making stuff for the entertainment industry, and I got some samples, and it wasn't like you could get like this much. You had to
You
get like
get like
you had to
this
get, like,
much.
this much as a sample.
So it's called David Shenanigans. There's always a shenanigan going on. So one of the shenanigans was a big package, and I was like, "What is this?" And he's like, "I don't know. I'm gonna try it." And then he's like, fell in love with it.
Well, I opened it up. And it was like this incredible. It was like craft fur on steroids. It was like these big patches of every color under the rainbow, and the fiber was anywhere from 6 to 9, 10 inches long. Beautiful taper on a patch, and because it was like on a patch, I'd been used to working with things like bucktail or polar bear or raccoon that comes on a patch, and you cut a piece from the base, and maybe you shuffle it a little, you tie it in reverse, front, it doesn't matter. And I was so impressed with it, and I tied like a really big like hollow fly right off the bat, and it was like incredible. Just put it in the water, shook it out. I was like, oh my god, this stuff is incredible. So I had so much of it, and I was like, well, I really want to put this in the hands of some other tires too. Like,
You started giving it away at first and just talking
well,
like
I gave it to
obsessively
some
about
friends,
it.
and then I was like, you know what? I've got so much. Why don't I put some packs together? Like I had only the stuff wasn't. I hadn't paid all that much money for it. I was like, I'm just looking to get my money back. I put together like 10 packs and charged $50, and it was like, right now it was like probably what we'd charge like $200 worth of material for. But I was just giving it out at a cost at like $60 or $70, right? And I put out 10 packs up on
He's like
Instagram.
large. I wanted it out of the house. I was like, you're never going to tie the flies with this. Like, you have to get rid of it.
Right, and it sold out like in an
I was like,
afternoon.
so on Etsy, like this is like a perfect thing to like see if anyone would
Wow.
do it, and then that kind of how it started.
So the Etsy was like crazy. We got so much, and then we were just like, you know what? We just promote it a little bit on Instagram, and the rest is history. It's
It
been
was nuts.
4 years. We got like 40 stores, a couple of countries, and we're right at the bottom of it right now too. Because I meet people all the time wherever I go. I was just out in Denver visiting my daughter in college. Somebody actually came up to me in the airport and was like, "Where'd you get your sweatshirt?" Because I was wearing a Squimpish sweatshirt, and I'm like, "We made it." And he goes, "Oh, you're Mr. Squimpish," and I was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Holy shit!"
I
Like
made all of my brand recognition dreams come true. I was like,
he didn't care about me. He cared
Look
about
at
like
the
the
sweatshirt.
product, Like he was like because he buys our stuff online, but I also meet tons of people that have no idea. Like when we go to the shows,
I
so
love
many
meeting
people
people
don't
who
know.
have never heard of us before, because if you're really into fly tying and you haven't touched this yet, you're gonna lose your marbles, because it really is unlike anything else out there. It's it's not, there's no product that compares, and I'm not just saying that, like it really is a different type of synthetic material that is, and then since then we've dove into obviously this manufacture and all the ways to get squimpish hair and make squimpish hair, and that's kind of how the boutique blends came about, is because we really wanted to put some sparkle in it, and then we ended up making it where we basically had to do it ourselves. So we started manufacturing the loose fibers to do that, and then
Brushes
from there
like
it
2
was like
years
spec
ago.
blends, and then it was boutique
Brushes.
It was brushes. So it's like
We're making good products, and I think if you were to ask what our goal is, dream, we'd love to just be able to get into every single shop across the country and maybe scale up and get big buys from big stores. But that's right now it's just us two.
No, that's not what I want. I want the Squimpishflies headquarters in Hancock, New York is what I want.
Awesome.
I don't think I'll ever let go of this business, to be honest. I mean, I don't know. Who knows? Someone actually
Right.
gave me a lot of money, but I doubt that. But I love trying to explain this to people, because you'll run into somebody and they'll be like, I'm like, okay, do you fish? And if someone knows anything about fishing, they'll understand what this stuff is, right? But if you look at somebody and they've never fished before and you try to explain to them how you make a living, you're like, oh, okay. You get a lot of looks, but it's pretty cool. I mean, it went from Etsy, and then I was an insurance agent for Allstate for 15 years, and I just started, we started doing this full time, and then the wholesale, and we're busy. We're busy, and I just love getting new customers. I'm like, haha, you've never played with Squimpish hair before. You're coming back, because it's true. It's like you can't. Sorry, my earphone's coming out. You can't not love this stuff. If this is what you're into, this is the jam. That's all I really have to say.
So
Yes, it is.
how does that compare? And this is for people that don't know about Squimpish.
Yeah.
How does that compare to, like, for our blow, or, like craft fur? Like, what's the major difference besides length?
I think that it's the composition of the material as it comes, whether it be on a brush, on a patch of fur, or in a blend. The lengths of the fibers are staggered, so it makes kind of a natural taper without shuffling it around too much. One of the I've said with beefs I ever had with synthetic materials, it usually comes squared off at each end. Everything's the exact same length. And if you understand what you're doing, yeah, it's easy to shuffle it and get a taper, or tie it in blunt and then cut it with the scissors and taper your fly that way.
So we have the same diameter from root to tip, so you can cut it to any length and just shuffle it yourself, and you would get that natural type fiber. You don't have to be. You could the taper is so nice that you could do nothing but just tie this onto a hook without knowing anything, and get that like beautiful little like tail feather thing going on. I mean, it's just an incredible product, all in all, and then it doesn't retain any water too. That's the best part about it.
So going back to the, because I don't in any way, shape, or form want to put down any of the, for
no.
lack of a better term,
We're all just
competitors,
different.
right?
It's
Everything's
completely
different. There's something about the limpness of that's a very natural hair. So if you've ever seen like human hair swim in the water, it's pretty incredible. You see like the people swimming in ocean with long hair, and it really moves like that. If you mix in something like with a little bit of bucktail too, it just gets to be the perfect consistency of a fishing fly. Like I have a little piece of a brush here. It's maybe like an inch and a half on a core, and when you like that, so that's kind of what you would get as a silhouette, which is that perfect like bait fish
Teardrop.
shape, right? Like perfect shape.
Like the material just automatically just goes to that particular shape that lends to this.
That's all, and I learned all of that from Bob Popovics in terms of the lengths and how to make taper. You have like very short fibers to longer to longer to longest, and you get that shape. Versus, yeah, you could do it with a scissor. You could cut that stuff with a scissor, no problem at all. But that being said, like it's just so easy to work with. You just take a pinch out, tie it on, whether it be reversed or bucktail deceiver style, and you can tie a really nice looking fly right off the bat. And I love like people like that are sort of into that beginner intermediate realm of tying, because there's a lot of experts out there. Like, I mean, you guys are all incredible tiers like here, and when we all get together and kind of have our bull sessions about tying, like we know so much, but think about the person that is just starting out and that's just trying to learn how to tie, and maybe they pick up a basic fly tying book or basic saltwater fly tying book. It's intimidating, and it's hard to learn to work with things like bucktail and other synthetic fibers that are very stiff or not so user friendly. I feel like this is a very user friendly product, and I love when we get these emails from people that are sending us their flies, and the guy's like, I've only been tying for 6 months, and look at this, and it actually looks really good, and I like that, makes me happy.
I like our whole motto is like peace, love, and fly tying. If you're gonna sit here and actually try to make a fishing fly, well, that's just amazing, and let's just call it what it is, right? I mean, this is a very specific art, and not everyone even has the guts to walk up to one of these vices and actually try to do this. So it's, to me, I think it's like, like it's incredible, like how much joy this, these flies make for people for all reasons.
Like, Dave, you've been fishing for a long time. Like, how did you get into tying saltwater flies?
Oh, well, I started saltwater fishing when I was a kid. Since I lived in Harlem, I used to go to 125th on 12th Avenue. There was a pier there. And I started with bucktail jigs. And my mentor, a good friend of mine, Kenny Sullivan, he taught me how to tie bucktail jigs. So we were tying bucktail jigs on the spot, on hand.
That's awesome.
Yeah, he had the mold, we had the hooks. He bring everything down and say, hey, we're gonna tie this right now, right here. I said, if I say anything, like, no, just use a hanger or use your fingers and just start tying up and you throw out. And we were catching stripers all the time with the bucktail jigs. Yep, that's how I started. And then gradually, I went into freshwater too, but I always came back to the saltwater, at that pier.
And how did the flies pick up? Like the fly fishing, because I've been fishing since I was like very, very young. And I remember 27, 28, I started fly fishing, and that's 25 years ago now. Like, I never looked back. I think I picked up the spin rod with the fishing with the kids. We've got 5 between the two of us, and they all try to fish, and spinning rod's obviously the way to go. But I mean, my youngest wants to really like is into fly fishing. I was just out in
Yeah,
Denver
one
fishing
out of
with him.
five. We got one out
So
of
we
five.
got one person who's into the fly right now. But
Okay, that's
how'd you start with the fly though?
oh. With me, I started with the fly. I guess in my early 20s or my late teens. Same thing. My mentor, he started it, and he's like, "Hey, Dave, when you get into it?" I'm like, I don't like that back and forth thing. I was, into the spinning stuff. I said, Dave, you got to try it. You got to try it. Once you try it, you're not gonna turn back. And I said, okay. I said, once I tried it, I never turned back. I still have all my spinning gear in the corner, just sitting there catching dust because I haven't even picked it up yet.
I don't have spinning stuff.
Yeah, so I've been from there. I just been fly fishing ever since. I even take my stuff with me when I go on vacation.
Oh
So
yeah, he doesn't travel without a fly rod. Are you crazy?
yeah, I have my travel rods, and if I go to Puerto Rico, my stuff is coming with me. I went to Ecuador, it, my stuff came with me. Yeah, it's like, hey, find me. Where's the water? Where's the beach? I want to go. Let's go. If I have to go by myself, go by myself. You know, yeah. So it's been nonstop ever since. So, question for our viewers: where did Squimpish, the name itself, came up?
Well, that's an old one. I'm sure David can answer.
That's your
You gotta answer that.
okay. So
That's everything
squidfish
you know
come
how to.
from squid. Is an anagram for squid, shrimp, fish, and it's a pattern that David started tying.
Yeah, so
There we go.
all game fish and other fish eat like usually three forms. They're either eating squid, if shrimp, or bait fish of some sort. And when you tie with like talk about it to Chris Taylor, if you tie with the things like Rhea and albino peacock or peacock herl, or making these like kind of weird umbrella shapes with saddles either tented or layered over, making collars or multiple station flies. A lot of times they look in a silhouette like the same. Like I mean, it's just in a silhouette like that could be anything, right? I mean, it wouldn't be a shrimp, right? But if you were to put like a shellback something over there, it could end up looking like with on a smaller basis like a shrimp. Um, and that just kind of got to be like my as when I was starting and tying and people were paying attention to my flies, like I tied like shrimp flies that looked like, they were spay bastards in some way or another, flowing hackles and a shell back. And then I was doing a lot of squids with tentacles and a big front push, something in the push, or it was bait fish from stuff to like from this to like, huge stuff. And so I don't know. I started using it, and
And yeah, when the business started, you're like, "What do we call this?" And I was like, "Squimfish."
yeah, like what do we call the
Duh.
hair? I was like, okay, it's squimish hair,
I
because
mean, because like
if I'm gonna
it's
get
the
behind
weirdest name
something and
ever.
promote it, like I'm tickled pink that like we've been able to make a business around this, because and all with businesses have to make sense. Like you have to be profitable and you know make money, right? Like, but this is incredible. Like that this works, because I never wanted to be part of the fly fishing industry. Like, and maybe that's why we're doing well. I think I have a lot of goodwill built up over the years, and teaching people, sharing my love and enthusiasm for the sport as well as the art of tying flies. Whether it be at shows, like I've loved giving materials out that people have never tried. And sometimes people are like, "Holy shit, you're giving me this? You don't want money for it?" I'm like, "Yeah, no, enjoy it. Like, there's something that you get from giving, right? Like,
Yep.
you feel good about it." I used to be known as the wine guy at the shows, because I'd show up with a couple of, a case or two of red wine at
Hmm.
the Somerset shows, a couple of glasses, and
That's
you.
how he got me to go to the shows when we first met. He said, "Just drink wine. You just sit there and drink wine." I was like, "Okay, here I
And
am."
like I see people and I don't even remember who they are. They're like, "Where's the wine?" I'm like, "Oh, it's right here." You're going
I
to
was
Dave.
like,
Like,
I don't know, go to some fly tying
there's
show
some
and
great memories of those shows. Like, just hanging out with people, and everybody's into it. I mean, I don't know how many of you guys know Mike Martinek. It was like incredible tires. I think it's a big part of our with regards to tying. I mean, everybody's a good fisherman, and there's like legendary anglers out there, like across the board, right? But the tires, they're in books. They've been like canonized. Like whether you want to go to pit someone like from trout like Gary LaFontaine, or you go to Bob Popovic's and saltwater, like these people have like volumes of work behind them, and we all like have shared and talked about these people and their influences on us. I think that's one of the greatest things about the fly tying in general is that like you can talk to it. You want to like give everybody their proper dues, and like when I think about like incredible saltwater fly tyers, I hope somebody puts a Bible together, you know? Like I forget the name of the guy's Tim. His name is Tim, but I forgot his last name. He had a site called the Flybrary, and it was
Oh,
like a lot.
yeah, Tim. I fished with him a few times, and
Cool
I
dude,
still
right?
don't know what happened to him. Trying to
So,
figure it
but he had
out.
this
Tim
idea of putting.
Geist.
Yeah, Tim Geist.
Yep.
So he had this great idea of putting all the flies together, right? It was a library of flies. So, but I think somebody needs to do something about like saltwater fly tying, like a history and who these people are. Because sometimes reference something like you reference something like a mush mouth, right? And like you're like people are like, whose fly is this? I'm like Dave Skoke, and somebody doesn't know who a saltwater fly fisher or tyer doesn't know who Dave Skoke is. Like talk about a mole crab, right? Like could be the greatest flats fly for or beach fly for stripers eating crabs, Eric Peterson, like his grass shrimp, or spawning shrimp, sorry, like unbelievable tire. Eric Peterson from up in Fairfield. Like these guys like cut the their teeth on fishing in the Northeast. I remember when I opened my restaurant, I was buying oysters from Jeff Northrup, who was like a premier fly fishing guide, and you had to be like a second or third generation oyster farmer and up in Norwalk area. And I was like so happy to be buying oysters from him. Like I love how the worlds kind of collide that way with regards to the ocean.
So now that you brought up your restaurant, why don't you talk about your restaurant a little bit and like what kind of restaurant is it? What do you guys do there? A little bit about that.
So I opened a restaurant called 1020 Post, and it's in Darien, Connecticut, up in Fairfield County. We're going to be going into our 15th year in October.
Wow.
And the address is the name. So it's 1020 Post Road in Darien, and like 160 seats indoor oyster bar bistro. So New England style oyster bar, a lot of raw bar, 6 to 8 kinds of oysters every day, lots of fresh fish, and um, tons of salads. Darien's a fairly well-heeled town, and good clientele.
It's a good hometown restaurant.
Yeah,
Listen, as soon as you said oysters, you just convinced my wife to come up there. That's all you
come
have
on
to
up.
say. We're
It's
coming up.
great when Scott Wessels from the Bears Den was doing his shows. It was incredible to see the travel of people from, let's say, the southern parts up to his place
Yeah,
to
you
do
have
it.
to hit
And
1020.
people would drive by 1020 because we're right off 95, and it's like exit 11. We're like literally like 1 minute from the exit, and people just stop by all the time. It was like the coolest thing ever. And sometimes when I do like the Somerset shows, and I could only do Friday and Saturday because I have to be back at work on Sunday, and people that came down from up there to
Yeah.
go to the show stop by, and they were like, I just saw you. So like one day I'm at a table tying flies, having a great time,
Yeah, double life.
and then the next
Total
day I'm
double
like
life.
hosting a restaurant. I think I'm naturally like given to like hospitality is about making people happy and cultivating enjoyment, right? I read some other restaurant's mission statement. They're like, we're about having people experience enjoyment, and I think that's just like a really
Yeah.
good definition of also like if you're a fly fishing guide, you're doing hospitality. If you're teaching a fly tying class, you're trying to get people to enjoy like.
You're just doing a service to other people. So
Yeah.
even as small as this is.
But I love the restaurant business. It's all I've ever known. I tried teaching high school English for a while, and it wasn't for me. And I like where I've gone. I'm hoping that one of my kids wants to take over
One of
my
these
place
kids
at
got to
some
take it
point.
over.
Yeah.
So, did
Let's
you go
go.
to culinary school?
I didn't. I got a teaching degree for high school English, and
How did you get into cooking?
well, I think I was kind of a maladjusted youth, and I had run away from home at 18, and was working on Cape Cod, and I got a job at a restaurant as like a dishwasher basically, and worked my way up very quickly through. And my mom's an incredible cook, so I knew my way around the kitchen a little bit. And then over the next couple of years, like working, putting myself through college or whatever it is, like working part time in restaurants as a bartender, busboy, food runner, trying all the different places. And I started managing restaurants. And then 15, 16 years ago, I had an opportunity to open my own place, and it's been an incredible run. Like very fortunate.
Yes, very fortunate.
It's something that Bob Popovich and I have bonded over because he's got a great little place, Shady Rest,
Yep.
and I think it was like 4 or 5 years ago. He was like, you know what, I want to do a raw bar. I want to do oysters on the half shell, clams in the half shell. I just don't know where to start, and I was proud to like help him out, whether it be with like mignonette and cocktail sauce recipes or types of oysters, distributors, like what to be looking for, and then maybe for like if you're gonna cook those oysters and fry them, like what kind of batter you want or what kind of breading you might want on them, etc. And sauces. Like food is life. I love food.
Yeah, we
I
throw
went to
down.
culinary school myself.
Oh, that's
Oh,
cool,
okay.
George. I didn't know
I,
that.
I
Where'd
went
you
to
go?
Johnson and Wales.
Oh, fantastic! It's like one of the only legitimate ones out there. CIA Johnson and Wales, right?
Yeah, I went there only for a year because I played hockey actually on the Cape, and the coach said you're not going to play hockey for the rest of. So you better think you're done. My high school was done at 11 o'clock, so I had nothing to do for the rest of the day. So I signed up for classes, and I would drive down and take like 2-3 classes a day, and I ended up finishing the degree here in Jersey through a community school, and all the instructors were Johnson and Wales instructors. So
That's cool.
That's awesome.
but I don't do
Yeah,
nothing in cooking. I don't do nothing in cooking at all.
We're known to throw down. We
throw down.
we throw down. We feed
Like-
the masses.
Yeah,
It's
well, my mom was a chef, and that's why I was like, yeah, I'll get into cooking. Why not? You get free food. You get to learn how to cook for yourself. Why not?
it's a
I'll take
very
it.
hard job. It's a very
I think the restaurant business is certainly it's for me. It matches my personality. I really need something that's constantly fluid and high energy,
moving.
never the same thing every day. I don't like putting out fires and dealing with stress and anxiety. And I feel blessed. I have a really great team of great managers, great chefs and sous chefs. It's been a really good run, and I'd like to continue. I mean, I re-upped my lease like a few years ago for another 7 years, and we have an opportunity to sign on for another like 7, in a year or two from now. I'm pretty sure I'll do it. There's an incredible like development going on in the town I'm in.
Hometown is changing as well, so it's
Yeah, like tons of money pouring in and lots of new restaurants. I mean, it's incredible. I think there's like slated 7 new places in the next like year or two around me. Some very legitimate groups coming in, Nantucket restaurant, a New Jersey restaurant group. And that just challenges you to be better. I'm not going to let anyone take my business. Like if we give it away because we're lame and lazy, then we give it away. But that's not going to be the case.
yeah.
That's
But
good.
so-
We'll definitely make
There is
a
like-
road trip out of it. I mean,
I have
Definitely.
I have a great painting hanging in my foyer. Do you guys know who Flick Ford is?
Yeah.
He's called the art, right? So I've got like a striped bass that he signed
Okay.
over. Like it's a giant one too. It's like 3x6 or something like that. I actually had an albie, like one of his albies there, and someone stole it.
really.
Like a customer stole it. A couple of like punk kids like on a snowstorm like lifted it off the wall and stole it. And it was on loan from like a Greenwich hedge fund that like had
Very
used some art,
expensive
right? It was like a
piece of art.
$15,000 painting. And we were on the news, like on news, what is it called? News 12 in Connecticut, like the local news. And they came over and they're like, we heard an expensive painting was stolen. And I was like, yeah, it's like 15 grand or 20 grand. And like literally that day, some dude calls up like, we had no idea it was so expensive. We're sorry. We thought it was a joke. We're going to leave it out, in the alley and you can come and get it. So we got
They
it back.
returned it. That's
Yeah, they
good.
returned it.
That's awesome.
that's
That's
nice.
a funny story. So, away from the, I'm gonna turn it back towards the material stuff and.
Sure.
So, you guys have 2 different materials. You have your material that comes in like a long, on a strip, and then you also have like the stuff called the boutique. And
Yes.
I know that Stephanie, you're like the goddess of blending the boutique.
No one's ever called me a goddess before, especially about this. This is, yeah. So
I mean,
basic-
besides Dave's daughter being like the #1 salesperson at the show,
Dave, your daughter was so cute.
Yeah, she's so cute.
She was so adorable. Oh my god.
Oh,
But-
thank you.
how is
So-
how is the boutique made? Like, how do you? What's the process?
The
Or
process.
and how long does it take? You don't have to tell us details, but I'm just curious.
Um,
Like what made you think of doing the boutique versus just the regular hide?
so we wanted to add sparkle, and we realized we were able to get some sparkle products in our patch form, but not all. And we wanted to just have, I don't know, just a little more, like, we want to have a little more control as to what we were doing. So um, basically, it was just trial and error. How many, our whole, when we started this whole business, it was in our living room. And if anyone uses Squimpish hair will know it does get everywhere. And
Yep.
especially on a carpet or something, it does have its
Yeah.
own mind of its own. So we were just trying to figure it out. And I mean, now I make batches probably between 15 to 30 blends at a time. And it's just basically pulling the fiber out and then laying it all down and then just adding flash to it, or angel hair,
Yeah.
and then just over and over, go over again, and repetitiveness. And then I basically roll it up and I just blend it again. I'm sure there's an easier way. I'm positive there's
I
an
don't
easier
think there
way.
is. If you ever
There's
like,
probably a
if
machine,
you
but then I would be out of a job.
Steve Gerard did a great tutorial on how to make the blends, right? How he makes his Farrar blends, which was like, you took kinky fiber and layer it with flash, roll it up, and pull it out from the middle. A
It's kind
couple
of
of
fun.
passes, and it's done, right? Because when you pull fibers apart, you're not only blending the ones that you pulled out, but everything you just removed the fibers from stacked down on himself. So it starts exponentially
Yes.
blending as you go along.
And so, like, colors have, we really can do any type of color scheme. It's like anything, you mix too many colors together and you don't get anything. So it's like you have to be very particular as far as how many do you mix. What, like, so like for chartreuse is two different colors that I put together. It's like an extra step to blending it all together because I'm doing 3 layers instead of two.
Right, we
And
got
then,
a green,
all right,
2 green to 1 yellow,
yeah,
makes that nice color that you're looking for. Um, we get orders all the time for like custom blends where like, can we get
yes.
olive with a little pink mixed in, or
Yeah,
Like
like
we
I
just
like the
made that
clown.
our I got that too many requests for that, so that became a regular. So that's our new rainbow trout, which I have no idea
I think
if
it's
anything's
also
close
one of the
by.
nice unique things, like the colors as tires, we all like want every
Oh.
color, every shade, every blend of it, right? Like we just love that. Like can't get enough. And one of the things I love
Don't
about the
tell
stuff,
Dave you guys got a new color. Don't tell Dave you
So
got a
so
new
we have
color.
we have a business model where we things come and go, right? So this material is literally so custom, and the colors can change based upon what's going on in our facility, all the other things. So I just basically went with the business model, like almost like Lulu Rue with I know that's not the people listening here, but it's the business model of like it always changes, and like you're gonna get one and it might sell out and you might never have that pattern again. So that's kind of how our business model is. So it's like you might have one color and you might never really see it again, and it
yep,
might come back in 3 years. I have literally every color we've ever had. I have it on file. I know all the names, and I am coming. I'm lack of names. If anyone wants to put in the comments,
that
like,
might be like a fun thing,
yes, I need
right?
like a contest
Name
of
some colors.
name some colors because I'm running out. But that's kind of how I've done it. We always have all the colors in the rainbow, but one's going to be a little different than the other, and that's kind of the fun of it all too. So
I
yeah.
definitely what I'm gonna because I love the boutique blends. The boutique blends and the brushes I think are like the most useful for me. And
Hmm.
the biggest thing that I like about the boutiques is everything's all in one. Whether you like to cut it off, pull it apart, take that band
Yes.
off,
Yep.
you could just work with it. And not only that, but the some of the colors you guys have are just so incredible. Like you have the camel, and then there's that rusty brown with the purple
Yeah.
in it. Like it just
The rainbow pecan with the little purple
Yeah,
yeah,
streaks in
that's
it.
yeah. I
that's
mean, it's
That's my
just
all-time favorite color. When I got that back into stock, I was so happy. I would
it,
like,
it's just ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous. And I definitely like it for backs of bait fish. I use a lot of stuff for fillers. So if you guys are some of the people that might be listening, if you guys are new to tying with it and you don't want to use it exclusively because you're like a natural material, you could definitely use it as fillers, or even just as building heads. Um, Building heads in the front are amazing with it. Because you could get that really nice bulk and the color that you want for the head of the fly as well. Um, I
I
just
like
think it's
that
super
a
cool.
lot of the colors are made up of a lot of different colors. So like the orange is like really
Mhm.
it's like yellow, orange,
Orange,
tan, right? All
red,
mixed
Yes.
yeah,
in. The olive, you
Yes.
look at it, it's like literally it's tan, it's bright green, it's brown, it's yellow, and somehow or another it makes this olive color when you just like relax your eyes and look at it. But if you stare, you see all the
Yeah.
different colors. I don't know how much that the fish see, right? Like we've heard all the things about like what color does at certain depths, but if it's about us and being happy about their
Well,
colors, we're really psyched about it, how they
we
all
can
look
sit here
together.
all day and talk about how much it's awesome to tie. The bottom line is that people catch lots of fish on it too. So
sure.
the fish like it. So it's not just like a really
Because
cool
it,
product.
it swims.
It
It
swims.
swims really nice.
It swims nice. The colors and the flashes and stuff. And I do change the flashes around. I will honestly admit the pandemic and supply chain issues have definitely changed how I had to work with the business because sometimes I couldn't get this type of
Like
pearl
pearl angel
flat.
hair. You
It's
can't get pearl
it's
angel
worth a
hair like
million
in bulk
dollars.
right now,
Anyone
right? So we're
have it?
using
Sell it
like
online for a
wind
billion
frame,
dollars. Worth it.
spirit wind, whatever they call it,
Yeah.
right?
So it's like very strange things kind of happened where we were like, okay, well, so I'm gonna have to just adapt. And a lot of times I notice like I have what, like 20 different shades of flash. And sometimes I notice like, okay, well, I really like this one better with that one, or I'll mix them together. So when you do order the boutique blends, you might notice the flash. If you look very closely, it does vary and it does give it a little extra sometimes. I always try to make, the accent color to let it pop because it could easily be clear and then it's doesn't have that same like what's the word I'm looking for? Like volume, I guess,
Right.
or
Sure.
dimension. That's the word.
George, what you were talking about to describe the three products in very brief detail, the hair that comes on a patch is all different lengths fibers, and it's just like a giant piece of craft fur on steroids.
So when David came home with
Yep.
this, he was just, you got to remember it was a lot of it. So it wasn't this little tiny piece, right? He was just like so in awe that it mimicked like a piece of,
Bucktail.
bucktail because it's on the patch. And he was just like, this is just so amazing. You just cut it right off. And he always would say to me, and like I knew because before I started doing this business, I didn't really, I listened to him with half an ear about all this stuff because who would listen to this unless you're involved, right?
Right.
So, he was just like almost like loved natural materials so much and almost was like he's like, I can't believe I actually found a synthetic material that like I could actually get behind because it's that different. And it's crazy to say because if you put out all the types out there and laid on a table, they don't really look much different, but it really does have a different
Feel.
feel and just chemistry to it that nothing else out there has. So, and it gives you that whole like cut it right off the patch type of thing.
Right. So we have the patch,
Okay.
and when you were talking about the boutique blends that your
Yep.
favorite, whether you just take it and cut the pieces off that like that, which lots to do it. Johnny does that. Johnny King does that, and he's like, I don't care because I send him as much as possible. But if you do take the band off, what you realize it's just like the fibers in the middle, and if you just do like a couple of like reshuffles through it, it takes that whatever that little bend was out in the
A little
middle,
kink.
right? And it gets gone in a second.
Huh. I
Now the
never even
next
thought
coming,
about that.
Right, just literally
yeah.
like four or five times through it, and whatever was like in the middle is kind of gone, right?
So in the
Okay.
next couple of months, we are changing our packaging. So it is going to start coming to you laid out like this. And it's still going to be the same, like 4 to 8 inches long. So it's still going to be the same, but we just wanted to make sure that a little R&D made us realize how much we want to make sure everyone gets the full length of this because
I got
this
you. So you're not
material,
wasting anything.
you're not
Right.
wasting a thing. And as long as you shuffle it back together again, you'll always get that taper because everyone buys it and uses it for different lengths and purposes,
Yes.
you know.
So we also don't want to be seen as only a big fly company,
Yeah.
right? Material. So that's the stuff that's 5 to 7 or 9 inches long, the fibers. And then when we process this, we get left with a lot of smaller length fibers, which is where the spec blend comes in. So
Yeah,
the
we
spec
didn't
blend
want
is,
to waste
is like a
our thing.
junior version of the boutique blend. And because it's shorter, we don't have to double it up and do it that way. We just grab the middle of the fibers.
So after you make 100 of these and you say, what am I going to do with all of this? We finally decided,
That's
like,
what it is.
we just, you know, like we were like, okay, we're not wasteful people. We want to make sure we use as much as
So
possible.
basically, when you look at something like that, like a bigger one, what this is it's a group of 2 pieces of fibers, and they're 7 or 9 inches long, but they're connected right at their tips. You can't see that, but basically, their tips are all connected there, and it's the same thing with something like there. This is like 3-inch fibers that are connected at their tips on either side of the band in the middle. So if you pull it out, most of the stuff's like 3 to 4 inches long, and that's for the shorter flies, guys that are trying to trout
Freshwater.
streamers,
Yeah,
freshwater
perfect, yeah.
stuff. Like
Yeah.
works perfect for it.
And this was only like a fly show special for a while because I wasn't really sure what we were going to do with it. And so now so if you were to purchase this or the boutique blends online, it's the same amount of fiber. I just figured some people just might want to have it where it's shorter and we have the extra shorter material. So why not just sell it like this as well? So if you buy this or you buy this, it's the same amount. It's just obviously in a different form. But the brushes are like literally David's masterpiece. It took him about 6 months before we started selling these.
I got like a
worked so
shitty
hard
bench,
on trying to
a shitty wheel bench,
these
and then I got an Oasis
perfect.
bench, and the Oasis bench is best in the business, hands down, the easiest thing ever to use. And whether you're making small stuff like Joe, you had said some of the shorter ones for steelhead, longer ones for bigger bait fish. Brushes are fun, and guys that don't have a lot of experience and a lot of stuff, ability to tie collars and numerous stations on a fly, the brushes make tying a nice fly very easy, and they're so I was almost thinking like I can either tie a fly in 15 or 20 minutes or I could make a brush in 10 or 15 minutes. And I was
Makes
like, okay,
sense.
right. We can't sell flies through our business. I don't know how that all works, but like
we can't because I don't think the demand of you is possible. So I always make a joke that like he's my Kim Kardashian and I'm the Kris Jenner because he is really the talent and I'm just like behind the scenes. So like we, once we start, took you a little while to get that one, right?
I was just processing it and picturing it in my head and then playing it out.
He walks into the office like, and I'm like, oh, okay. But no, in all seriousness, we have big dreams for our little business, either, as far as like when we have more time to devote to it, like it would be a lot different where, David would sell flies and stuff. So the logistics of the government and or his time has really kind of stopped us from flies, but he definitely enjoys watching some Netflix
I love it.
and making
I love
some
making
brushes.
again, it's the
It's
same
very
thing.
therapeutic for him.
People enjoy it. I enjoy doing it. It's part of one of the products that we make. I'm happy to make them to do, and I love seeing the flies that people make from the brushes.
I think that brushes
it's
need more.
Joe, we did we did that great class of tight lines, and I've done a bunch of classes for shops and clubs. The favorite part of everybody is when we do the brush fly, like a big brush fly. You get to tie like a giant beast fly that's so easy to do.
People out there don't even know what it is, don't know how to use it. I think that we need to give brushes some love, like collectively, it's like an industry. Like we
There's some videos out there. I have a D Oasis table too, and I probably made about 3 brushes on it. I'd rather just buy the damn brush.
Well, he'll make them for you because he loves it.
I've heard so many people say that exact same thing.
I just added colors on top of this.
Yeah,
Nice.
I like Squimpish for veiling, like over top of
Like what George said.
bucktail.
the little backs.
Well, like the whole fly too. Like and also when we made this fly, this was like we're using the soft text to shape the head just a little
Yeah,
bit to
yeah.
brush it
Yeah.
on. But like we
That's your
used
favorite stuff.
dubbing for the head. Look at the different colors, that's all kind of brushed together for the
Yeah.
head. I mean, yeah,
It's a,
I
exactly.
love finishing the bigger flies with some dubbing on the
Yeah.
some of that longer stuff, the like Magnum dubbing that's out there.
Yeah.
The stuff that's like 2-3 inches.
Latera.
Dave's got it too.
Latera.
Laterra's is great.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yes.
He's great, dude. He's also really funny.
I'm telling you, I talk to him like all the time, and I'm like, Aaron, you are missing out. You need to start coming to the shows because you are missing out on a lot of stuff. And I hope I could get him on here. He's a little shy when it comes to camera and communicating, so hopefully he'll come on here because he's got some of the stuff like you guys have that's absolutely unique. That kind of like
Yeah.
started it in the big material that Dave introduced me to both of you
Yep.
guys, to Aaron and you guys. I
Yep.
mean, I walked across you guys' booth by accident, and then I saw him tying a cinder worm, and I'm like, all right, this guy knows what he's talking about. If he's tying cinder worms, then he knows what he's talking about. So I'm going to sit down and watch him. And I watched him do 1, 2, 3. And next thing you know, it's like 4 hours later, I'm still sitting by you guys' booth watching Dave tie. I said, okay. And now me and Dave like talk like on daily basis now. And, we both tie at shows.
I think we've cultivated some friendships over the years with other people.
Yeah.
We've put people together.
It's just amazing how there's so many unique materials, especially like you guys, that are. You were talking about your hoodie in Colorado, right?
Yeah.
So I go to the gym in the morning, and it's like the easiest hoodie to wear is a zip up. So the only zip up I have is a Squimpish zip up. So I wear it to the gym every morning because it's chilly. I walk into the gym one morning, and the guy comes up to me. He goes, "Hey man, where'd you get that hoodie from? That's a cool looking hoodie." I said, "Squimfish." And he goes, "Yeah, but they don't have it on their website. I've checked so many times." I go,
Well, we do have sweatshirts on our website as of like a couple of days ago, and I am in the process of making some like cool swag instead of just like our dude. But our dude is really cool.
Love you, dude. So he goes, I tie with their materials. And how did you get the hoodie? I said, they gave it to me. And he goes, what do you mean? They just gave it to you?
You're like, well, I'm part of their pro staff, so.
Do you think we have to put like a little longer hair on the Squimpish person to be like a female too? Like, do we have to have like a
No.
No, it's
Okay.
androgynous. It's
Androgynous.
Unisex.
yeah? Because androgyny is the way of the world now, right?
But anyway, down the road, I was like, yeah, listen, you eventually they'll have them on the website. I said, if you want to
Yes.
check out the podcast, they're coming on the podcast.
Yes.
So he's probably going to
Friend from the gym, there is a sweatshirt on the website, I promise you.
Yeah. But they were just like, I was like shocked. I was like, how do I don't even know how to answer this because it came out of nowhere.
Well, that's
so
what he
it's
called
pretty
me. He
cool.
was like, you're never going to guess. Someone stopped me in the airport. I was just like, because this is like, I went to college for this stuff and I, blood, sweat, and tears into Squimpish. It's like our identity pretty much.
Right.
And I was just like, that's so cool. I was like, finally.
I got a new product idea too. I think you should the style David's hats that he wears. You should put your logo on it. I'm telling you, we call that the
Definitely.
David Nelson hat.
Let me tell you, these are just Sims hats. And he had when you get older, you like the same things over and over again. I mean, we all do,
Yep.
right? So these are probably, how many years ago did you buy these?
I got this one in Oregon.
No, but
like
like
5 years ago.
originally, it's vintage at this point. I searched the eBay for this shit. This is Christmas. This is birthdays. This is. Let me see if someone's selling it online type of hat. So.
Now, do you ever wear like a baseball hat, like with like a bill?
Yeah,
when you
I
go-
used to be a skater, and I was like, I would wear them backwards, like felt like wanted to be a Beastie Boy. Like,
Right,
I look
but-
really funny in like a 4-pound.
He has a very nice
hat.
shape head. I don't know what he's talking about. He walks around work without a hat. It depends on which David is depending
But-
if you have the hat or the unhat David.
But if you're fishing, you don't wear a hat with a bill.
Oh no, I have like a giant
Like a
coolie
sur-
hat.
Like a
So-
sombrero?
That's not the right word.
Like a
Yeah, like a giant sombrero, right?
Okay.
Like
It's
Like,
you can,
out to
you
there.
can spot him from a mile away. I'm like,
Okay.
oh,
I
there
was
he is.
actually just so I was on the east branch of the Delaware on Tuesday fishing, and I
Jason
hear her
Taylor?
yelling, and Jason Taylor flying by. Well, I don't know, you guys know
Yeah,
JT.
yeah.
He like had walked down a neighbor's driveway, and he was yelling to me across the room. He's like, "I recognize that hat anywhere. Which is your house, so I can park?" And I'm like, "Cool." So he came down, and we came, fished for a hot second, and it was like funny, like, yeah, I got recognized for a lot.
Yeah, I was just gonna go up there this weekend because the March Browns just started coming off.
There were a
really
lot.
good,
There were a
really
lot
good.
out in the water.
And gray foxes, and I was like, my buddy's up there now. He's like, you gotta come up. So I was gonna bring the boat and we were gonna drift, but I can't. So
Oh,
Yeah, so
pushing
once
the
all
luck.
the children decide to
Well, you
leave
have a
the
new
nest,
baby,
we're
man.
gonna be up there full time. That's our
He's
plan.
not
And
new.
bring
He's
Squimpish
Really?
to-
He's two. He's
Yeah.
not new.
All right.
And Dave knows he can handle himself. He ties his own flies.
Yes, he
So-
does. The little
That's
guy.
adorable.
that's cool.
So, but,
Stephanie,
yeah.
do you fish too or no?
I have, but I also was taught how to drink wine and watch fishing. So that's how I first got into this. No, I honestly like really love getting on a boat with him and just like hunting them out. Like I love, right? Like how many?
How'd you like being on the boat with Dino down in Florida?
Oh, that was fun. I
Oh,
loved
Dino?
Dino's awesome.
Yeah,
that was
Dino.
fun. But I also
She
did
hooked
almost.
she hooked like a 40-pound mahi.
But I
on a
almost
Wow.
had the fly
Like,
hook
You want his
tied
new
around my
boat?
leg.
It was mayhem. Yeah.
Mayhem.
Were you on his new
When it was
boat?
No, on his older boat. This was
Oh.
like 4 years ago or 5 years ago.
So
Yeah.
since we're talking that, Joe, go ahead and hit him with your question that you asked.
Well, I think it's pretty obvious, but I ask everybody the same question, and I've gotten really unique answers, especially from Bob Pop. You know, his answer really surprised me. So I'm going to ask you,
There's
as
Squimpish hair now.
all of our guests. So, David, when what's your favorite fish to fly fish for? Like if
That's
you
a
were
very
like, damn
loaded
it, I gotta
question.
go do that again. That's the only fish I ever want to fish for. I gotta do that again.
You know,
Like
I'm-
something that wowed you. Like
The-
holy
the-
shit.
Listen, the easy, obvious answer is brown trout. They're just the best
Oh,
ever, right?
my man.
Right. That's the easy. But I'm gonna go out on a limb and say the fucking carp are just so fucking cool.
Yeah.
They're incredible. They're so hard, and they make you a really good angler to try to catch carp, especially
do.
pressured carp.
And I tell you, they don't like to get stuck by a hook either. They get pissed
No.
off when they get stuck.
No, and I've seen my backing on carp
Really?
probably more than
Oh
trout.
yeah.
Maybe the exception would be Delaware rainbows will.
They're
At
all
times do
rainbows will
that.
smoke you.
That
What
was
are
the
you
first time
using?
I ever
What
saw
are
my
you using?
back
What weight you using, Dave?
for a carp. Anywhere
Yeah.
from like six to seven.
Okay.
You know, nothing
Well, it's-
major.
In all
Small-
fairness,
small
they have
flies.
they have the heavy current. They just go downstream and
Yep.
rip your
Oh,
line.
I'm
Still have to do
going
the
in.
same thing.
I'm going in lakes for the carp. I have some really
yeah.
nice. I have the Croton watershed around me, and there's some really good carp flats. And you guys know Henry Cowan. Like he does some guiding on the hooch and those like floodplains over there for carp.
I'm
I took
coming
him
to
on the
hang out with
Amawalk.
you.
It was really cool.
We're lots of fun, man.
Yeah,
On a good day.
we're gonna have stay tuned. We're gonna have like a weekend at some point in July up in Hancock. We got a house on the Delaware now and a nice little yard on the river, and
Nice.
we'll let everybody know like a Squimpish
Yeah.
water
I'm
day.
sure people like that's watching this podcast, but the people we
No,
know.
for the pro staff and friends, right? Like
Yeah, no. We just recently got it in August, and kind of the season ended, and we have another business and this business and kids, and so we haven't really gotten our feet really dug deep there yet, but it's
We're gonna
definitely
be there.
where we're gonna put our roots from this point forward.
So
So
if I need to leave my boat in Hancock, I got a place to leave.
you
it.
have a backyard to put it in.
A friend and I refurbished like a wooden drift boat, and there's a defunct bowling alley in Hancock.
Yep, yep.
Right, so that's where it's stored. The guy's got room. He didn't realize that people might want to. So I'll put
Really?
you in touch. Yeah, I'll put you in touch with him. I think there's only a couple $100 for the whole season to store it there. You get a key, you can have access to it, and
Oh,
I'll put
that's
you in touch
awesome.
with them. It's a nice setup.
That's
It's the
awesome.
one right. It's before Bard Parker on the right.
Yep,
that
yep,
bowling
yep,
alley.
yep,
Right?
yep,
I
yep.
love that little town. I fell in love with it from like the second you brought me over there. I was like, Okay.
So Kino is in the chat, and Kino's asking where can he buy the Squimfish T-shirt.
So right now, first of all, he must have one of these.
Oh, we gave him
These
one.
are circa 2018. This is vintage Squimpish
We
he's
have one
wearing
for
right
him.
now.
We have one.
Which
for
I
him.
have one.
Sure.
There's a
Kino,
smiley
Kino, we got
Kino.
anything.
emoji.
You know we got
Kino.
you,
Kino, we
Kino.
got anything you want, buddy.
We love Kino. We
These
love you
guys-
guys.
the
You
guy-
guys
the
were
guys from
very
the-
supportive
the-
of us from day
okay.
one. Dave and Kino, like you guys were awesome. Like, we just
Thank
kind of
you.
opened up to like, I said, let's have a pro staff. Let's, and I really, our motto of the pro staff is, again, it's like peace, love, and fly tying. Just have fun. Like, there's nothing that, if you're going to take the time to tie a fly and then put it on a hook and try to catch a fish, well, you've made it. That's the whole point, right? It's not anything more or less than that. So it's
So, because all you guys are like, well advanced, and
Yeah, I mean, we're talking
dealing
to
with this
pros here.
lifetime in this industry and community. Like when you first started out, I remember going to my favorite fly shop in my area is the Complete Angler. Greatest dudes on the planet, right?
every block from the restaurant.
Yeah, and they
Literally.
literally were right across from my restaurant before my restaurant was there, and they've changed locations and they have a great new spot in town. But the short is, when I first went in there trying to learn how to fly fish, it felt like a bad club. Like I went into the shop and I was like, "Do you guys have any Rapalas?" You know, like because I was just looking for something to break the ice. I wanted to like just get a rod to catch trout with, but I didn't know how to like talk about
It
it.
should
It
be
was
like a bell at
intimidating.
every
right?
fly tying, every
So,
fly
so we
shop.
wanted
It's just
to
like, hi, I want to learn. Like you
we
just like
wanted
ring it.
the bro team, the bro staff to
Pro
be
staff.
like that. Like anybody that wanted to contribute.
it, it if you're like again, if you're going to just take the time and want to learn how to do this and enjoy it, and then like see it come to fruition, and and
That's why people love tying their own
yeah.
flies. I think
I mean,
filmmakers are like
I
that too.
honestly like, we've been together like 10 years, almost 10 years now. And it's, I didn't know anything about fishing before that. And it's like, slowly, just from our relationship and then like, obviously the business, it's the most harmless sport or hobby, whatever you want to call it. It's a really, really nice, wholesome thing in a very chaotic world right now. So I feel like it's just like, I'm very happy to be a part of it, to be honest. So
That's cool.
yeah, it's cool.
So Dave, I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
If you could use one fly and one fly only, what would it be?
It would be like a white baitfish, like something like that with a little weight in it. Yeah, like that size. Like that size. Like that catches everything. You can
Yep.
catch a giant bluefin tuna with that. You can catch a giant trout.
That's like your you say you
Yeah.
say
3 to 4
universal.
inch. Yeah, 3 to
Okay,
4 inch
universal.
baitfish.
Universal fly.
white, maybe grill gray over the back. That's the jam.
Okay. Okay. I
How about
like
yourself?
Clouser.
Same idea, right? A little
That's it.
weight, little
Yeah.
weight. That nice.
It just no matter where I go, and that was one of the first. That was the first streamer I caught a fish on, and it was a brown trout. It was a small clouser. I tied up myself, and it was amazing. Then I caught a striper on it later that day. So I was like,
Oh, that's
okay.
oh my God! So it's two
That's
fish
my
in one
point.
day,
You like
separate environments,
Yeah.
everything. That's
I went
yeah.
up to the Delaware. I drove.
Dave's got his out.
No, this is yours. You gave it to
Okay.
me.
I
oh,
drove 3 hours to the Delaware, and I caught first streamer. I'm stripping I'm like, I'm not gonna catch anything. It's a clouser. It's made for smallies. It's not gonna catch me a brown trout. And I caught a brown trout. And then I went and drove home, and my buddy's like, "Listen, the stripers are hot. You want to go?" And I said, "Where you want to go?" He's like, "We're gonna go to the beach." I said, "Okay." So we have like a dog beach area in Manasquan by the inlet, and the fish tend to kind of shy away from the beach. But if you're there on low tide, you can walk out and you can hit that deep spot where they go further up the river. And sure enough, I got the cast just right, and boom, on that clouser. He goes, Did you just use a freshwater hook on that? I said, yeah, it's like a size 2. He's like, you landed that big fish with that? I was like, yeah, I landed a brown trout on it earlier today. He goes, get the fuck out of here. He goes, you gotta hang that fly up. So I ended up losing the fly in the moves I've had, but yeah, that was like my Clouser is like my old time favorite for everything.
So when I got my first like 5 weight, I was catching trout while I was working at a restaurant on a tidal river in Rowayton, Connecticut, and I was like went out down to the docks one night. There was like lights, and there was a cinderworm hatch
Yep,
going on, and I see these trout. I mean these stripers like going ballistic, and
ballistic. Yeah,
you could see the worms in the water, and I didn't have anything like this, right? But I did have a Mr. Twister tail like in a rusty brown color. And I took like a little piece of trout, like little piece of rubber, and I put it on a hook and I attached it to my 5 weight and I threw it in front of a thing. Got completely smoked, broke off because I had like 4X or 5X on, right? I wasn't ready for a 7 pound striper to like take it, but like on a piece of rubber, but because it looked really good in the water, right?
yeah, yeah. Uh, uh,
So
uh,
what's that cinderworm fly?
that's my. It's a basic Estes and Marabou.
Is
It's
there
like a
foam at the front?
it's a woolly bugger. There's a
Yeah.
black in the front. Just to
Is it foam or no?
no foam, no
Oh,
foam. Intermediate line, and I just strip it slowly, and I just slam it.
they're really cool, man. Those are like really cool things to see. Those worm hatches, right?
If you get into Cinderella Hedge, I don't think you'll ever see a striper act that way, especially if you're in a tidal or where there's a current tide. They'll literally line up like brown trout, and it's like for brown trout. It's amazing, and they just rise all night, just like this.
And they're maddening. They're maddening to catch. I've gone 3, 4, 5 days in a row on the same tide trying to catch them and tinkering with my flies like Dave. What you're talking about, like your guy, like you guys are making your flies right by the river to try to catch your fish. We're like tinkering every day before the hatch to try to
Yep.
get like the fly that wakes right to get those
Wow.
fish that you can't catch. Like you're
Yep.
trying so, and all you want to do is get one. That's like whether it be on a swung fly or a dead drifted fly, that one kind of fish that's doing that. Those because they're big. Sometimes they're like 10, 12 pounds too. Like
What?
it's not
Why
all
don't you
small
do it?
fish.
Why don't you do what Lefty's motto? Lefty's motto was unmatched the hatch. I mean, I've done that so many times and caught fish.
Right, we do a black bunny fly, like a 3 or 4 inch black
Yeah,
bunny
I
fly,
don't.
and
I
like
don't ever try to match the hatch. To be honest with you, I'm totally opposite of that. Like if there's a school of bunker, the worst thing you could do is have a bunker fly the same size, same color, and cast it in the middle of the bunker school. Like I cast, I'll cast something bigger or smaller, or different color, and cast on the edges of the bunker schools. Like I do something totally different. I don't.
Uh,
I had a very we had the one of the worst days ever last week. Literally, it was a good day because we caught a bunch of stripers, but we should have caught 150 stripers. There was pods and pods of them everywhere, and they just wouldn't chase anything. And we tried everything and unmatching the hatch. They weren't feeding, so basically they were post spawn bass coming down from the Hudson, and they were just piled up on the Staten Island side, and they just wouldn't eat. I mean, we got some of the aggressive ones, but I mean, I had my side scan on, and they were just for miles pods of stripers.
Wow.
not
It's
with
like
lockjaw.
just think of it. It's like a woman after she's given birth. Like basically, that's what they feel like. Probably they don't want to eat.
No.
Yeah.
she goes, no.
I had a
No.
question from Kino. He says, "How long you been using your spade rod?"
Oh yeah.
Oh, a long time. It started with overhead casting and trying to like get some distance in the surf or I got a couple of spots in Stanford that where you don't have room for a back cast, but there's a lot of current. So I learned how to roll cast and I remember going out to Montauk a bunch of times with some surf rods and fishing like east towards Shagwon, like going down the beach, finding a rock, seeing boils, being able to cast 90 feet or 100 feet really like with a small fly, and then take them on the boat because it was fun. And It's kind of graduated over the time. I remember like fishing with a spay or two-handed rod for like 3 or 4 years before I ever caught a steelhead. Like it wasn't
Wow.
about steelhead fishing. It was like just I remember catching my first steelhead. That was like 6 or 7 years ago. That's a dream fish too. I don't know how. I know Dave, you
Oh
fish
yeah.
for steelhead. Like that's a great fly. I think
Steelhead
it's
is amazing.
so Joe. Like what you're talking about, like not matching the hatch. It's more like what what I was trying to get at is that like the fish that are rising, like I want them to rise. I want to get them exactly on their terms.
Right.
And that's kind of like where you're like that's like for me that kind of sense of satisfaction or figuring out or cracking a code like that getting the fish on their terms. I think that's what brought me into fly fishing was seeing trout that I couldn't catch with a worm or
Yeah.
a rapala or a spinner, and a fly fisherman came down the river and he saw these fish, and I had like even broken open logs to try to get a grub out to throw to these trout that were rising, and he like showed me this little puffy white thing. It was a cahill of some sort, and he's like, "Do you mind if I fish these things? I think they'll eat this." And he's like, "Do you see those things floating on the surface, right?" Like, and there were mayflies on the surface, and the trout were eating them. And he throws a like little dry fly at these trout, and they eat pretty as pie. And I'm like, I'm gonna fucking do that. That is the coolest shit ever, right? And I think that's how fly fishing kind of came about was like people that were fishing for trout or species that were eating insects because they won't eat anything else when they're eating insects. So
Sure. Sure. I think that started out in Europe like a long, long time ago. Obviously.
Early 1700s.
Yeah.
Uh, so it's funny that you say that you like to match the hatch. So last week I ended up working out in Allentown, PA, and I carry my fishing stuff with me in the work
Yes, you
truck.
do. Everyone does.
And I was like, in Allentown, PA, like this is awesome because the
Little
sulfurs are
Lehigh.
coming off. No, not the Little Lehigh. I do not fish Little Lehigh. I don't stock. I don't. If I go to PA,
Yeah.
especially like Lehigh Valley or anywhere in PA, I do not fish stock streams. There's so many beautiful wild brown streams that I just don't do it. I just can't. I'd rather go to a place where it's more difficult and it's a challenge for me to catch a fish. And if I don't catch a fish, I'm like, I got to come back and I get one. So anyway, I'm there. I know sulfurs are happening. I packed the vise up. I had literally like 2 minutes to get my shit ready in the truck. So I packed my vise up. I packed the materials. In between jobs, I'm tying sulfurs. So I'm ready to go. I get all my work done. I get to the creek and there's caddis bouncing. There's a couple of sulfurs popping off. I said, okay. And I can't catch nothing. Now I'm going through olive caddis, gray caddis, brown caddis, and I'm going through the sizes. You started 14, 16, 18, nothing. And I'm like, man, what am I doing wrong? I said, there got to be a. All of a sudden, I see a fish just come out of the water. I'm like, they're fucking eating emerger caddis or emerger sulfurs. They got to be on something like that. So I'm like looking through the box now. My box is very limited because I had literally 2 minutes to pack my shit. So I'm looking through the box. I'm like, oh, there's an emerger caddis. Let me just trail it behind a size 18 brown caddis and see what happens. I throw it in. Boom, fish. The first cast. I'm like, okay, I'm on to something. I said, let me see if I could get another one. So I hear another one rise. Like, oh, let me cast it in that direction. I have no clue where. I just heard a splash. You hear it, and boom, I have another one. Boom, I have another one. I said, okay, I'm done. I could pack my stuff up. I reeled up my stuff. I didn't even wait for the sulfur hatch. I was like, I could go home now. And it's getting that exact match of what they're eating. I think is such a satisfaction sometimes because you could pull your hair out for hours and hours to figure, especially like a bug factory like the Delaware, where you have like 80 fish,
Everything.
80 different hatches going on at the same time. Like the first time I went up there,
every stage.
there was apple caddis, there was isos, there was regular caddis hatching. What else? Sulfurs. You had rusty spinners coming down. I was like, what in the world do I put on? And you're going fly to different sizes. And finally, when you hook that first fish, there is nothing more satisfying, I think. And I think that's where a lot of people don't understand how satisfying brown trout fishing is compared to just stripping streamers. Yeah, you'll catch big fish on stripping streamers, but to get it dialed down to exactly what that one fish that you've been trying to catch for the past 2 hours finally just ate is just absolutely the most satisfying thing.
Shouts your fish.
Yeah, yeah.
Dave, what's your fish?
My fish?
Yeah.
Oh,
Like your dream fish. If you had to fish with one.
wow, that's pretty hard.
I know. How about
I
you,
guess I
Joe?
was.
Oh.
I guess
Well,
I
it's
would
easy.
say stripers because that's where I grew up with when I was a kid. Catching stripers. Yeah.
It's an easy one, Dave. I mean, it's the greatest game fish, fly rod game fish ever. I mean, and it's explosive runs, it's jumping, it's everything you want in a fish. And I'm sorry, I'm not into the trout scene. I never caught a brown trout and probably never will. But my favorite fish is a tarpon.
It's a cool fish.
It's the
badass
baddest
fish. Yeah, it's a
fish on the
badass
planet.
fish.
Other than that, my second would probably I've caught tarpon, but I've never caught a like a blue marlin. Like I would do something like that. I'm just not. I'm not into the whole trolling thing like those guys do, or they troll flies, or they troll teasers and then they replace the teaser bar with a fly.
Right.
But I've seen recently, if you've seen it on social media, where they're openly casting to strike marlin and some marlin like in shallow water. Like I would do that, but the tarpon's by far the
That gets you going.
meanest and
those are
baddest fish
cool.
of the ocean right now
They're
for
really
fly
cool.
fishing. There's
They're really
nothing
cool.
that compares to it.
Have
Maybe
you
a
ever gone
tiger fish in Africa, but
Have you ever fished for tarpon at night?
no. But I had a trip plan. I thought I had a trip plan with Jake Jordan. I would go with. He's probably the only guy I would go with. I mean, I fished at night, but I've caught tarpon at night by accident, but not. I was targeting snook. But no,
Because I've gone to the Keys a bunch of times to fish, and we do the flats fishing, and it's sometimes great, and sometimes you get blanked. It's really hard.
yeah.
But you go out at night, and it's like Volkswagens like dropping in the water. These
Yep.
things are eating grass shrimp, and they're pushovers, like floating lines, black bunny flies, giant fish. You like jump 20 fish, 30 fish in a night. It's like stupid.
Yep.
All right, so we are at our mark where the live feed on YouTube is going to end. So if you guys want to check out the rest of this podcast, because we're going to keep going, and the after show is where it's at, because Stephanie's going to be answering questions you guys never even thought were coming.
I am.
Yeah.
We have a sale. We have a 5-year anniversary sale and Memorial Day sale coming up Friday through Monday. So if you're interested, we are your. Now you just have Steffi. We're your time to get your hands on some squimp.
And
Right.
I have their description down below for their website as well as
Yeah.
their Instagram. So if you guys want to go ahead and follow them, feel
Yeah.
free.
Thank you.
I appreciate you guys coming into the live stream.
We appreciate you guys so much. If it
Thank
wasn't
you.
for, just people understanding like how amazing this product is. I mean, it's just really, honestly, it's changed our life completely. It's taken a hobby into a business that's going to, we're gonna grow old with it. That's my plan.
That's cool.
And if anybody has any questions, you guys are more than welcome to reach out to their pro staffer, Uptown Dave, or you could
Yes.
even reach out to them directly on
Yes.
Instagram.
Yeah, Mr. and Mrs. Squimpish or Squimpishflies. We're all just Squimpish. You'll find one of us. So.
Yeah. But yeah, I appreciate you guys. You guys have a good night, and I'll see you guys in the after hours.
Awesome.
All right.
Have a good night,
Thank
everybody.
you.
Hey, oh, by the way, before I end it, ATV10, if you want your bucktails from Midwest Bucktails, go ahead, give them a try, and use that code. It's good till Sunday, 11:59. All right, so.